Time is passing right now. You can feel it. The seconds moving. This moment becoming the last moment. The future arriving whether you want it to or not. Time flows, forward steady, unstoppable, and you are riding it. That's not a belief you chose. That's just how existence feels. Obviously, undeniably. Every waking second of your life. Here's what a century of physics says about that feeling. It's wrong. Not approximately wrong. Not wrong in some technical edge case that only matters near black holes. Wrong in a way that reaches into this moment right now as you sit here feeling time pass. The flow you're experiencing, that river carrying you forward, physicists have searched the equations of the universe for it. They've looked carefully, rigorously, for over 100 years. It isn't there. What they found instead is this: time is not moving. It never was. What's moving is you, through a structure that is, as far as the mathematics can tell, completely and permanently still. That's what I want to show you today, not as a metaphor, as physics. Before Einstein, time was simple. Newton had it figured out, or so everyone thought. There was one clock, universal, ticking at the same rate everywhere in the universe, for everyone, always. Space was the stage. Time was the backdrop. Objects moved through space as time ticked forward. Clean, absolute, intuitive. Einstein broke all of it. What Einstein showed, first in 1905 with special relativity, then in 1915 with general relativity, is that space and time are not separate things. They're woven together into a single four-dimensional structure, space-time. One thing, and that thing, this is the part that changes everything, does not flow, does not evolve, does not change. Space-time is a block. Think about what that means. Everything that has ever happened, your birth, your childhood, this moment, your death, the dinosaurs, the formation of the sun, the heat death of the universe, all of it exists in this four-dimensional structure. Not as history, not as potential. As actual locations. As real as any point in space is real. The dinosaurs aren't gone. They're at a different address in space-time, fully real, fully there, exactly as they were, just not accessible from where you are now. Physicists call this the block universe or eternalism. And this isn't a fringe position. It's what the mathematics of relativity most naturally describes. Einstein himself believed it completely. When his closest friend, Michel Besso, died in 1955, Einstein wrote to the family, "The distinction between past, present, and future," he said, "is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He wasn't being poetic. He was describing what the physics actually says. So if all of time is laid out, fixed, complete, existing all at once, then what exactly are you feeling when you feel time passing? Let me give you an experiment. Not a thought experiment, a real one. Done, measured, confirmed. Take 2 atomic clocks. The most precise timekeeping devices humans have ever built, accurate to billionths of a second. Synchronize them perfectly. Put one on a commercial airplane, fly it around the world. Bring it back. Put the 2 clocks next to each other and compare. They don't match. The clock that flew shows slightly less elapsed time, not because it malfunctioned, not because of vibration or air pressure or temperature, because time itself ran at a different rate for the moving clock. This is called time dilation. It's been done multiple times. The results match Einstein's predictions to extraordinary precision every time. And it's not just an experiment anymore. It's an engineering problem we solve every day. GPS satellites orbit the Earth at high speed and in weaker gravity than the surface. Both effects change the rate at which time passes for those satellites relative to clocks on the ground. If engineers didn't correct for this constantly, every single day, your GPS navigation would drift by about 11 kilometers per day. The correction is built in, it works, because time dilation is real. Now, think about what this actually means. If time were a universal river, one flow carrying everything forward at the same rate, then 2 clocks that started together and came back together would show identical elapsed time. They always would, no matter what path they took. They don't, which means there is no universal river. There is no single rate of flow. There is no current that carries everything together. Each object has its own time, its own rate of aging, its own trajectory through the four-dimensional structure. Move faster through space, and you move slower through time. Sit in stronger gravity and time slows for you relative to someone in weaker gravity. The rate depends on your path. Your path is yours. Nobody else is on the same clock you're on. And this means now, in the present moment, the thing that feels most real and most universal is not a fact of the universe. There is no single slice through space-time that everyone everywhere agrees is happening simultaneously. Your now and the now of someone moving at a different speed relative to you are genuinely different nows. Not because one of you is confused, because simultaneity is relative, because the present isn't a property of the universe. It's a property of where you are and how fast you're moving. The river doesn't exist. What you're calling time passing is something happening to you, not to time. Here's the part that quietly unsettles physicists more than anything else. The fundamental equations of physics, quantum mechanics, electromagnetism, gravity, are time symmetric. Write them down, run them forward. They correctly describe the universe. Reverse the direction of time in the equations, literally replace t with negative t, and they still correctly describe the universe. The laws work both ways. There is nothing in the equations of physics that says time must go forward. Nothing. A film of two billiard balls colliding and bouncing, run it forward, run it backward, at the level of fundamental physics, both are valid. Both obey the laws. There's no equation that says one direction is forward and the other is backward. So why does your experience go only one way? Why do you remember yesterday and not tomorrow? Why does the egg break but never spontaneously reassemble? Why does your coffee cool but never reheat itself from the room temperature air? The answer is entropy. The second law of thermodynamics says that in a closed system, disorder, entropy, tends to increase. A broken egg is more disordered than a whole one. Coffee mixed with cooler air is more disordered than separate hot coffee and cool air. The universe tends from order toward disorder. And that tendency, that statistical drift, is what defines the direction we call forward in time. But here's what's important to understand. The second law is statistical. It says entropy almost always increases. Not that it must. At the level of individual particle interactions, time symmetry holds perfectly. The arrow of time, that powerful, inescapable, felt sense of moving from past to future, emerges from probability, from the brute fact that there are vastly more disordered states than ordered ones, so the universe almost always moves toward more disorder, and we call that direction forward. The direction you feel time moving, that obvious, undeniable, couldn't be any other way directionality, is a statistical tendency, not a law written into the universe at the deepest level. And where the low entropy starting point came from, why the universe began in an extraordinarily ordered state from which entropy has been increasing ever since, nobody knows. That question is open, genuinely open. One of the biggest open questions in physics. The arrow of time points in a direction, but physics doesn't know why it was aimed that way to begin with. There's one more layer, and I think it's the one that makes everything else snap into focus. In the block universe, in that complete, fixed, four-dimensional structure, the present moment has no special address. There's no equation that marks now, no law that distinguishes the present from the past or the future. Every moment in space-time is equally real, equally there. The present isn't privileged. It isn't marked. It has no special physical status whatsoever. So what is the present? What is now? Some physicists find this deeply uncomfortable. Lee Smolin has argued against the block universe specifically because of this, because eliminating the reality of the present seems to eliminate the most undeniably real thing we have. His position is that only the present is real, and the past and future don't exist in the same sense. But this view struggles against the mathematics of relativity, which simply doesn't carve out a privileged now. The equations don't have one. You can't put one in without breaking something. The dominant conclusion, uncomfortable, strange, hard to sit with, is that the present is not a feature of the universe. It's a feature of consciousness, of what it feels like to be a particular brain at a particular location in space-time, processing information, constructing experience. Physicists have a word for the path an object traces through space-time. They call it a world line. Your world line starts at your birth. It ends at your death. Every moment of your life is a point on that line, a location in the four-dimensional block, fully real, permanently there. And the present? The present is just where you are on that line right now. It's not special to the universe. It's special to you. It's the location in space-time that your experience is currently assembled at. The universe doesn't have a now. You do, because you're a process moving through the block, and the experience of that movement from the inside is what we call the present moment. You are not in time the way a fish is in water. You are a shape in space-time, a four-dimensional shape. And the feeling of moving through time is what it feels like to be that shape, experienced from inside it, one cross-section at a time. Now, I want to be honest with you about something. Everything I've told you is well-supported physics. The block universe follows from relativity. Time dilation is measured daily. The time symmetry of physical laws is established. The absence of a privileged present in the equations is a fact. But there's a question none of this answers. And I think pretending otherwise would be wrong. If time isn't flowing, if the block is static, if now has no special address, then why does it feel with such absolute, overwhelming, undeniable force like time is passing? Why does waiting feel like waiting? Not just registering duration, but feeling it. The specific felt quality of time moving slowly when you want it to move fast. Why does grief feel like loss, like something that was here and is now gone, unreachable, receding? Why does anticipation feel like leaning towards something that isn't here yet? The experience of time's passage is one of the most vivid features of being alive. It feels more real than almost anything else. And the physics says the structure it seems to correspond to, a flowing river of time, doesn't exist. That gap is real, and it's unresolved. Neuroscience can tell you some things about how the brain processes temporal information, how duration is estimated, how the sense of now is constructed, how memory creates the sense of a past. But why that processing produces the felt quality of time moving, why it doesn't just process temporal information neutrally without the feeling of a current, that's the hard problem of consciousness applied to time. And nobody has cracked it. The physics tells us time is a dimension. The neuroscience tells us the brain builds a sense of now. Neither tells us why the whole thing feels like a river you're riding forward into the unknown. I'm not going to pretend that gap is closed. It isn't. And gaps that are real deserve to be named as gaps, not papered over with language that sounds like explanation but isn't. Let me tell you the thought I keep coming back to, the one that doesn't quite let me go. If the block universe is correct, and I think the mathematics makes a strong case that it is, then everything that has ever happened to you still exists. Right now, at its location in space-time. Your childhood is not gone. It's there in the four-dimensional block, fully real, exactly as it was at its coordinates in space-time. The version of you that was 7 years old in a specific room on a specific afternoon, that cross-section of your world line exists. Permanently, not as a memory, as a location. Every person you've ever lost is still there, at their coordinates, real, complete, exactly as they were in the moments you shared, not accessible from where you are now, but not gone the way gone usually means. Not destroyed, just elsewhere in the block. I genuinely don't know if that's comforting. I think it depends on the day and what you've lost. What I find remarkable, what I keep returning to, is this. You are moving through space-time at exactly 1 second per second. That's your rate. You can't change it much. You can trade a little time for space, move faster through space, and you'll age slightly slower as the satellites prove, but you can't stop, can't reverse, can't skip ahead. You are on your world line, and it goes one way. And from the inside of that world line, from the inside of that shape, moving through a static four-dimensional block, the whole thing feels like a river. It feels like time is carrying you. It feels like the past is receding behind you, getting further away every second. It feels like the future is approaching, getting closer, becoming inevitable. It feels like the present is a knife edge, always moving, always becoming something else, always already gone by the time you notice it. None of that is exactly wrong. It's what being a world line feels like from the inside. It's the first-person experience of being a path through space-time, but it's not time moving. It's you moving through something that has no current, no direction, no flow, no preferred now, something that simply exists completely all at once in 4 dimensions, with every moment of everything that has ever existed sitting in it, real, fixed, permanent. The river isn't flowing. You are. And why a physical path through a frozen 4 dimensional structure produces from the inside the overwhelming experience of a life being lived, time passing, moments lost, futures approaching, the knife edge of now cutting through everything, that question is still open. It might be the most important question there is, because it's the question of why there's an inside at all.